All right, everyone, you know who Jenpsaki is, or Psaki, or something like that. The White House spokeswoman there, the press secretary, she's got a problem. She's got a problem because people are noting that she is, let's say, vastly different from the last White House secretary. And not in a good way. You see, supposedly Trump's administration was filled with incompetent bimbos, and yet you have a situation where the White House press secretary is routinely avoiding answering questions, now famous "let's circle back" commentary. And number two, at times doesn't even appear to know what Biden has recently done. For instance, link in the description, Joe Biden had passed an executive order, signed an executive order, in order to restore catch and release. This was ended by a Trump-era executive order that caused ICE to detain people when they were illegally in the country. Before, what had happened under Obama, and to a lesser extent in prior administrations, was that if a person was caught and you were at or near capacity, and or the person really hasn't done anything wrong other than be illegal, and especially in cases where you can't necessarily determine the country of origin, you're not sure if the tale they're telling is even true, it's really difficult to deport. You have to put someone on a plane or on a bus or something and expend taxpayer funds to bring them back, or if you've got overflow, you have to increase your facilities along the border to actually process people. It's a very slow bureaucratic process. What Obama did is say, well, we're just, if we don't think that the person's a felon, and you're relying on third world governments to actually document who the felons are, so keeping that in mind. If the person hasn't done anything violent or felonious under U.S. law, and they're not known to have any terrorist ties, we're just going to release them. By the way, he's also signed a different executive order that blocks what happened under Trump, which was under Trump, refugee resettlement required the consent of the cities and states that were involved in it. So the idea was, just because Uncle Sam at the federal level wants to resettle 1,000 refugees from Syria in your town, if your town makes a reasonable determination that they can't really handle that number of people, you didn't have to do that. This happened in the case of Rutland, by the way. Syrian refugees were scheduled to be resettled. There was a big debate over it. Some people were very much in favor, other people very much against. In the end, only like a dozen people were resettled in the city of Rutland. So it doesn't make it. They've probably moved out by now, considering how shitty Rutland has become. Let's put it bluntly. That got ended as well, that policy. So Biden is essentially has restored catch and release, but Jenpsaki doesn't even know that. She is supposed to be the mouthpiece of the president. Literally your whole job description is answer questions about the administration and things pertinent to U.S. policy and things that are in the news. Stuff like that. What is Mr. Biden's opinion on the Super Bowl? And most of them are softball questions. What's Biden's favorite ice cream cone color? What's his favorite mountain? Which Great Lake does he like the most? Which Great Lake name is this most superior? Wink, wink. And they give really softball questions. Sometimes she doesn't even answer those. Well, the question's irrelevant. Oh, let's circle back. Let's circle back to a totally different subject. That's called let's skirt the question. Just to be clear, the White House press secretary essentially skirts every other question that she's given. Sometimes, this is probably why. I would think that in this case, she just sort of ignored it and said, well, I'm not going to... Biden has no comment on his executive order. He has no opinion about the order that he signed literally the other day that you know nothing about, with regards to catch and release being restored. By the way, that was one of the more popular things that Trump actually did. Ending catch and release, that was an issue that even a lot of people on the left had some trouble with. Because it's like the whole point of even having a border or an immigration system breaks down if you're not going to actually make any reasonable attempt to enforce it. I actually personally agree with prioritizing the deportation and so forth of people that are potentially criminal in nature. The problem is that literally anyone coming in who's not an unaccompanied minor sort of situation is breaking federal law. They are all criminals. Yes, the Dreamers deferred action with DACA doesn't mean you haven't committed a crime. It's just saying, well, we'll figure it out later. It's a can-kicking maneuver. If you came to a nation illegally, with a very few number of exceptions, it's illegal. You broke the law in so doing. And that's the whole point. Psaki didn't even know that this this had been restored after it, I can't remember which year Trump ended catch and release. I think that was one of his first things that he did, if I remember correctly. It was funny because they said, well, the number of illegals coming in is rising. Yeah, after it collapsed systemically. Look at what happens as soon as Biden gets elected. What ends up happening? Oh yeah, several 100,000 people merged into enormous caravans. Guess what? When they reach the border, if they get past like the Honduran security forces and stuff and get on a death train, those that get here and aren't, human trafficked or fucking beheaded or something, yeah, they'll be processed topically. The kids will be held in detention because, you'd never know who their parents are or who their guardians are. And the worry is human slavery usually. And the rest will be resettled in communities all around the U.S., including communities incapable of supporting them. And that's really at the crux of the problem. And the next crux of the problem is that the government is never going to give them a proper permanent status. When Biden says there will be a pathway for the dreamers to citizenship, it'll be 8 years, and you can get conditional temporary residency or something. They're not even going to give them that. Because once you give them residency, they gain a considerably larger number of rights. And if you give them citizenship, then you can't abuse them anymore. But if they're just deferred action, and they're literally a criminal every single day just by illegally being in the country and you're just not kicking them out, yeah, you can, sure, work them to death. They have human rights, if you have anything documented, but most of them aren't. They're called undocumented for a reason. You can use them as slave labor. You don't have to worry about workers' rights. Yeah, the person who's there illegally, who has no technical legal status and can't make use of the normal court system, is sure going to complain when his employer makes him work an extra 10 hours in the week without pay or something. No, people come here for a better life and they get enslaved. Ironically, in some cases, their life is still technically better than where they came from. The United States is so evil and terrible, and half the world wants to come in, and the government won't even do anything about it. That's about all. Peace out.